In the middle of the 15th century, Rus still remained a country burdened by a heavy legacy of the past. Fragmented principalities, accustomed for centuries to independence, resisted submission to a single authority. The memory of the Mongol yoke lived not only in chronicles, it could be felt in the very structure of the state, in its fears, habits, and political compromises. It was at this time, in 1462, that Ivan III ascended the Moscow throne, later known to history as Ivan the Great. His reign became a turning point. He was neither a reckless warlord nor a knight from medieval legends, but a statesman of a new type, cold, calculating, and patient. The historian Vasily Klushevsky wrote, "Ivan III did not rush to victory. He knew how to wait for the right moment." And indeed, it was under Ivan the Great that Moscow began methodically, step by step, to gather the Russian lands. Novgorod, with its ancient traditions of liberty, was subdued. Then came the turn of Tver and other principalities. This was not merely territorial expansion. It was the destruction of the very idea of appanage Rus. The power of the Grand Prince ceased to be contractual. It became supreme. The culmination of this process was an event that forever changed Russian history: the stand on the Ugra River in 1480. Khan Akhmet attempted to restore Moscow's dependence on the horde. Two forces confronted each other on opposite banks of the river and stopped. There was no thunderous battle, no decisive blow. But there was something more important. The horde retreated. Sergei Soloviev called this a silent break with the past, the moment when Rus first realized itself as free. From that time on, Moscow no longer paid tribute and no longer recognized any foreign authority over itself, formally, without war. In essence, conclusively, liberation was accompanied by profound symbolic changes. The marriage of Ivan the Great to Sophia Palaiologina, the niece of the last Byzantine emperor, was not only a dynastic event, but also an ideological one. With her came to Moscow a sense of continuity with a great imperial tradition. Under Ivan the Great, the Kremlin was rebuilt, new cathedrals were erected, and the red brick walls that we know today appeared. Moscow began to speak the language of stone, the language of a great power. After Ivan the Great's death, the work of unification was continued by his grandson, Ivan IV, known to history as Ivan the Terrible. His childhood passed in an atmosphere of brutal struggle among boyar clans, where power was a dangerous toy and trust a rare commodity. In 1547, at the age of 16, Ivan IV was crowned Tsar, and for the first time in Russian history, assumed the title of Tsar of all Rus. This was not merely a new title, it was a declaration of equality with European monarchs and Eastern rulers. The early years of Ivan the Terrible's reign were a time of hope. He surrounded himself with educated advisors, sought to establish order in governance, and to strengthen the state through law. A new law code was issued, the Streltsy Corps was created, and Zemsky Sobors began to convene regularly. Sergei Platonov wrote that during this period, the Tsar sought support, not only in fear, but also in consent. Military successes soon followed. In 1552, Kazan was captured, the last major fragment of the horde world on the Volga. 4 years later, in 1556, Astrakhan fell. The Volga became an internal river of the state, and a path to Siberia opened before Russia. In 1565, he introduced the Oprychnina, a special system of rule that divided the country into two parts. The Tsar's personal guard appeared, the Oprichniki, whose name would long become a symbol of terror. Kluchevsky wrote of this time, "The Oprychnina was not a means of governance, but an expression of the ruler's inner anxiety. Repressions, confiscations, executions, all of this fell upon the country. Cities were emptied, the economy was devastated. The most tragic episode was the sack of Novgorod in 1570, a city that had until recently symbolized ancient Russian freedom. The Opritnina strengthened Ivan the Terrible's personal power, but weakened the state. The economy was undermined, society split, and fear became the main instrument of politics. And yet, looking back at the 15th and 16th centuries, historians agree on one thing. It was precisely then that the foundations of Russian statehood were laid. From a small Moscow principality grew a vast centralized Tsardom, capable of pursuing an independent policy and in new lands. Sergei Soloviev summed up the era as follows: the state was created at the cost of great sacrifices, and therefore proved durable. The symbol of this time became St. Basil's Cathedral, erected in honor of the capture of Kazan. Its unusual appearance seems to reflect the very spirit of the era: complex, contradictory, harsh, and majestic at the same time. The path from Ivan the Great to Ivan the Terrible was the path of the formation of a great power, a path that determined the fate of the country for many centuries to come.